Ramadan is approaching. It's almost upon us. And we have to think to ourselves, are we ready? I'm getting ready. I'm not ready. Brother Imam, are you in that frame of mind of Ramadan?
Well, let me say this, and I'll quickly clarify one thing so it won't mislead anyone. You said Imam. Well, the term Imam itself is a beautiful term that references itself to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu more specifically, and earlier before that, it would be Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. But the term in common base usage for me is relative to someone who presides over a masjid. I do not preside over a masjid, so the term Imam would just be an affectionate gesture by virtue of past references. But
because of our history.
I believe one.
I said because of our history. I've known you since I was a teenager.
So I'm not
really, quite a teenager anymore.
Yeah, I'm not really admonishing with that statement. I'm just trying to put a little clarity around it because I hear the term Imam often, and I guess it's used to the pleasure of any who use it. But specifically speaking, excuse me, the term is references to one who presides over a masjid. And that's a good thing, and we have to respect that. So I'd just rather be, in that light. But anyway, nevertheless, we're talking about Ramadan. And Ramadan is a very, very wonderful time, and it's all inclusive. All of us involved in Ramadan if we are Muslim. And it's the month that we fast. It's the month that we have opportunities to really visit upon ourselves very carefully and make some determinations about our findings and to make some clarities and adjustments and to try to reinforce and strengthen ourselves in such a way that we can be more conscious and more dutifully performing in the manner which is in order to the pleasure of our Lord. And abstaining from food and drink is a very stimulating thing that can help our consciousness about our obligations, our purpose, and we can discover our abilities to acquire the strength by restraint and discipline, prayer, contemplation, things that really actually is enriching to the human being in every way. So Ramadan is a beautiful time of year. We love the Ramadan. So getting prepared for Ramadan, that probably takes place every day. The preparation is needed because you're upping your whole initiative to a level where you can see some verifiable results. Mm-hmm. So Ramadan is like that.
For some of the people who might be watching, listening, can you just expound a little bit on the obligations that a Muslim goes through during this month, this holy month?
Well, actually, Muslims got the obligation all the time. Muslims, human beings got the same obligation. The obligation really is to be a respectable, decent, truthful person. And that's an obligation that's upon every human being, though they neglect it grossly in many ways. But that's a common sense obligation. Why wouldn't one be truthful? Why would one not be honorable? Why would one not be really actually supportive and upholding the things that help humanity be enriched and not be of the way we see our world now? The world is full of mischievous, undisciplined thinking and actions and everything else. And we got a world now that the police is a necessary entity, armies are a necessary entity, jails are a necessary entity. That's what this world has to have a jail, gotta have police, gotta have armies, gotta have all these precautionary things going on all the time, gotta have alarms on their houses, gotta have, understand, all kinds of locks and everything. Because of what? Because of the condition that they're in and the fact that they can't reason about it well enough to make the necessary efforts to change it, tells you that they are getting weaker and they need to take and build their strengths up. So that means to build their strengths up, they got to take down some of the things that is drawn upon their strengths. Now, disobedience, poor attitudes, mannerisms, behavior draws heavily upon the human being, common senses, and his common life. Inordinate ways tear at your heart and your mind. So we know these things are true, though they're not discussed in really terms of where they probably could be made simple and easy and applied to any and all things that we do in our everyday life. But children should know very distinctly what a bad mannerism, behavior, attitude is, and should be taught and apprised of that as they're growing up as a child. Mothers and children, taken from that perspective, are related so closely. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed the mother to bring the child forth, and it's stated that she brings the child forth faint after faint, meaning through a toiling, difficult, challenging situation. And the child and the mother share in that, and they share the passion and pain of that. So having gone through that, just reflecting back that that did exist and it did occur, that binds the mother to her child and the child to his mother. Now, if the mother and the child can maintain that bond and live out that bond, enriching, reinforcing, and incorporating the things they become aware of and that they share in the outer world, so that they begin to build a relationship that really actually represents that unity, that bond, that love between mother and child. And this bond is there for male or female, the mother versus male or female. But when you see people disrespect their mother, disrespect women, when you see people not have the ability to think and consider things other than in some anguishness, you wonder whether or not there's been any parental values saved in this world.
Guidance.
Whether or not there's anything that really is working between mother and child anymore. And when you go to that far, you say, well, okay, if there's a possibility there's a strained relationship or strained condition between mother and child, what is making that happen? Then it shows you the neglect of father meeting his responsibility, taking care of his wife, his home, making them secure, raising the child or giving the child opportunity to be raised up and educated in an appropriate way, feeding and clothing them so they won't be outdoors and wanting of things that's not necessary, and building appetites that can cause them to fall into criminality and all those kind of inordinacies. In other words, family behavior becomes a real value in unison with the child, mother, father, and other siblings. Because every one of the siblings, every one of the children that the woman has, she's going to share that bond of passion and pain. And Allah is so merciful, He doesn't allow her to suffer after the child is born such a direct, acute remembrance of that pain that she goes very happily along with it, admiring the child, loving the child. All these things Almighty God has put into the nature of the human being. But do we pay attention? Do we ponder it? Do we ask ourselves questions of whether or not we properly perceive what it is or understand what it is? We don't. Do our society generate any kind of pathways that lead us to be being reminded of it? We don't. We go into psychology. Instead of us seeing all those common connectors and seeing whether the wiring of the common connectors is not shorting out and giving off sparks or something, we go in and say, oh, we know what's wrong with him. And before we conclude what we say is wrong, then we start proposing, maybe we got to give him some pills, or maybe we ought to operate on him, or maybe we ought to give him some kind of process. Instead of saying, what happened to the normal thing that is ordinary, that's been provided by the Creator, that if you perused it and looked at it, you may in fact find out how to address and how to even prevent some of this inordinance and this madness that we see this all in the streets now, where children are in such dismay. And young people growing up with that kind of pressure on them can't figure out how they're going to manage, or they think they can't see their way around things or to see through the confusion that's before them, and they explode. And there's nobody warning them or giving them any kind of advice that would be a warning or an alerting thing to say, hey, you're going to grow up, you're going to know things that are in a society that are going to challenge you, and you're going to need to be able to resist it or embrace it according to what it is and what the worth is to you, to keep you balanced and advancing as a human being, decent, calmly addressing the problems you meet, solving them, instead of being devoured by them or being brought to an explosive condition and yelling out or striking out. You see? So, Ramadan gives us an opportunity to learn how to restrain ourselves. Gives us a chance to start thinking about what we have been doing before Ramadan. And whether or not what we've been doing before Ramadan shows any kinship or any likeness of what we've been called to do in Ramadan. Allah says Ramadan is to enable us to learn self-restraint. To learn self-restraint. But the whole course of our life, we should be learning things that make us what? Able to operate properly, fairly, justly.
Discipline.
And operate in a unified, mutual way. And not be all at a distance with each other and thinking that, well, I think he's strange, or I think I don't like him, or I think that he's doing, all these undercutting things that we see in the world. And that's why I said, we live in a world where you got to have police officers. You got to have an army. That represents what? There's no self-restraint. There's forceful, induced, powerful responses to the neglect. Now we're going to make this that we have neglected come a way that we say it should go, while all of the convenience that make it go that way naturally, paid no attention to it, gave it nothing. So when you hear them talking about history and they talk about the kind of things that has happened in history that makes us think that the human life is 40 different brands and they're not just one, all that is really a matter of making mockery of the one who creates and sustains. There's only one that creates and sustains, but if we're going to give 40 different versions of what we think a human being is, while he only created one human life, we're making mockery and blasphemy. Ultimately, we're going to have to give account for that, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that's what the world we live in is doing. They just need some help. And they won't admit they need some help from the Lord of the world.
Well, has family been replaced with familiar? In other words, has family, you said family is pertinent to the individual developing properly. But I mean, it seems familiar things are just taking the place of a family. So if the disruption, the corruption, all of those things take place and become familiar to the individual, are they upserting the value of the family by being just, this is what I'm familiar with, this is what I'm accustomed to, this is what I'm used to?
Well, earlier, remember we were saying how people have done things that are inordinate. That's been going on for a while. Okay, let's just try to put that into the conversation. Wherein there has been evidence and there's history, and it's reported, and even they make movies and stuff like that illustrating time periods when there was such gross, brutal neglect of the common human life that there were periods of enslavement and hardships thrust upon people with no concern to even know what effects it really was, how deep it went, or how much it hurt. That means there was a savage period, and there was some savage behavior executed consistently for a period of time. Now, if a savage behavior is able to become ravish, do anything they want to do, don't have to give no accountability for what it's doing, left to just do anything and call it whatever you want. And then you say one day, you know what? We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to see if we can do something different because things are easier now. But all that brutal, ugly stuff is never removed or treated. Human life is something created by a creator. Human beings are recipients of it. Human beings don't own it, and they can't anticipate or initiate the process of the human life in a way where as to say, I got under my control human life or human beings, and I can tell them what to do, and they will do what I say, and if they do, they'll be safe and they'll be successful. Nobody can say that. This is all within the will of the Lord of worlds. And he has prescribed a simple prescription that calls for us being respectful and obedient to him and to owe ourselves the obligation that we have. Owe it to yourself. To do what he say and see and witness the results of it. We have every reason to do it since he created us, right? We didn't create nothing. We don't sustain ourselves. But the point of this is we live in a world that throws all that aside as if they created themselves maybe, and they can sustain themselves. So they have set themselves on a course that consequences is strange. The consequences will be strange. So Ramadan gives you a chance to think about it. Gives you a chance to look at what the individual who performs or fasts on Ramadan, think about what I've been doing. What was I doing not just last year, but all the time. I got a chance to now visit upon myself and see what I've made of myself and see whether it's fitting enough that I should be before my Lord. Or am I so damaged by my behavior earlier that now I'm really perplexed and confused as to what can I do about it. Okay, this is a time for you to appeal with a constancy to your Lord to see if you can't reset yourself by his permission. Ramadan gives all those great options for human beings. Ramadan is just not prescribed for Muslims. It's prescribed for humanity. Muslims are the ones who, by virtue of the Quran and the modeled example in the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they are the ones who have evidence that they can illustrate immediate and in long term. They can peruse through all of these things that we're talking about with corrective thought and reasoning. The Muslim can do that. Well, the whole human being, all human beings, if they follow the prescription, could do that. And if they did do that, we'd probably see they're all Muslims. If it's one life he created, and he gives a prescription that shows the best of that one life, if that life or if those persons follow it. And the example is the Prophet Muhammad. If we got that proof, then what is our reasons for plotting and scheming against ourselves and others to the point that we are such a ruin? Now we need to have some kind of strange thing to take over the wretched conditions that we have brought upon ourselves. So we need to have a jailhouse to confine some, and we have to have a police officer, and we have to have a court, and we have to drag people through and process them as if we do not know what right and wrong is. And then that causes another kind of criminality to come in. The dragging of the actions, of the police officer, it falls under criminalization or criminalized methods too. Why? Because if you're thinking wrong, that's criminal. If you're not doing the most appropriate thing for human life to flourish in a healthy way, that's criminal. So all these things that you see going on, that people say, oh, A few is benefiting and a lot is suffering. The masses are far below the few that's benefiting and proclaiming that they have contentment and comfort. The masses is great numbers. And the masses is always trying and wishing and hoping it could be like something that even this world prevents it from really easily obtaining. In the truth of the human life, there's no aspirations that is in the order of the prescription that Almighty God has given that one cannot aspire to and see immediate and continued results that brings into the contentment and the relaxed, accomplished position of a sane human being, free of the savage behavior that runs loose in the world.
So
now, the savage behavior, you know the savage behavior, right? you know that's
soothe
around.
that savage. Was the savagery, is something we need to put in check? Everyone needs to put, not just Muslims, but everyone needs to put
Well, where did it come from?
in check.
You got to find out where it came from. And the only thing that really gives you the safest, most reasonable thing to say is that disobedience to the one who created the creature in the first place has brought us into this savage position that we find ourselves into. And so the savage now, he don't run through the jungle with the alley-oop stick, understand, with a nail in it. That ain't what he's doing now. He got a AK, R7, what do they call those guns? 15 or whatever.
AK-47.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. He got one of them on and got on a bulletproof vest and all that. So in other words, he done got dressed up now. He now done learned how to cover himself in his savage behavior with all kind of ornaments. And he suggests those ornaments represent he has made great progress in moving forward and advancing. But he's doing the same thing that alley-oop was doing with the nail in the club or whatever. I mean, I don't know if you knew alley-oop.
Yes, a cartoon character.
Yeah, but anyway, that kind of stuff.
I mean, I'm not that old. I heard about it.
Well,
just kidding.
I'll tell you what, you may not be that old, but I'll tell you what, alley-oop's still around.
I understand.
He has aged a bit.
But the person that's the victim of the savagery can use this.
Well, somebody's
to
going to be victimized, so we can always look and see there's always a classification formula that he got that makes a certain segment of the society be victimized by these things. Why? Because it's a profit in having police on the street and jails understand to lock the people up in, and a jury and a judge understand to sit down and look all aristocratic, like that they are really officiating with every good intent. I mean, how is it that we can have corrupt judges? If a judge is corrupt, that tells you right there, the system allows it.
Yes.
And though he may be a better judge if he's not corrupt, he's vulnerable like every other creature, even the smallest one that he sees. He's vulnerable to the criminal thinking that has marshaled this here situation to where it is now, that doesn't want to admit itself to be that. So now, during Ramadan, if we be honest, and we really sincerely appeal to the Lord of the worlds for his support, then we'll find the strength to take and look at ourselves straight on and start to determine what it is that we are not doing, and also look at what we are doing and make the comparison as to which one is right and which one is wrong, which best serves the overall sense of my obligation as a human being, as opposed to little selfless bits and pieces that I proclaim is so fulfilling to me. So in other words, Ramadan is going to bring me to a position where I must scale down and begin to see what is necessary. What is necessary for me? And the attitude and the manner and the behavior, all those things that really actually prompts itself based on my unchecked appetite, become more visible for me to be able to address, you see? But this is just talking about things and trying to talk about things, I should say, in a general pattern that anybody, be they knowing of a particular aspect of the religion or not, can get some thought, some germination that, look, man, you are different than what you think you are, That's because you really don't know very much about what
Who
you are.
Yeah.
And why you don't know that, you didn't pay attention, or they didn't allow you to pay attention, or those who really actually have given you these little gestures that they do have led you astray from the common sense of things. So you're not plugged into the universe like you think you are. You understand? You're not plugged into the universal order.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I look in your face and I see a human being, that's normal. If I look in your face and I become angry at your face, that's abnormal. It shouldn't be hysteria. In other words, so you look at a person who is, as they have classified people, say they're a different nationality. They call them different nationalities. And look, human nature is human nature. Human life is human life. Mm-hmm. And no more difference than you will find in a daffodil and a rose as it relates to them both being flowers. You find no difference. They look different, but it's just flowers. So now if human beings have some characteristics or facial expressions or facial shapes that seem to vary a little bit, does it mean they're less or different or some other kind of human being? No. They're just human beings. But if you are moved to treat a human being different, and then you fortify that by putting all kinds of other sentiments and all kinds of other provocative measures around that human being so he can become or appear or at least be thought to be different. That stuff is contagious like a disease. And so when it gets around, particularly touching little children looking around, they're curious. They're supposed to be curious. That's the way life is. When they get around, they start looking at each other and start having mystery thoughts. Then they grow up one day and they start seeing, at least they think they see, that one is different than the other. And they start saying, no, he ain't the same as me. These people, those people. But they don't do that about dogs. A dog, what kind is he?
Very
you understand?
Right.
But they don't do that about humans. They don't say, they look at humans, but they don't say, what kind is he? If they was curious in a natural, normal way, I would suspect they would say, if there was such a mystery existing, what kind is he? And say it with the same compassion that they say, what kind of dog is this?
Right.
At least, I mean,
interesting
and I'm putting
concept.
it in low terms. That's just low terms. But if you show up somewhere with the wrong complexion, and your complexion doesn't network and make the connection, Joker may come jump out the bush thinking he's seen a rabbit, or treat you like he's seen a rabbit with his shotgun like Elmer Fudge. He want to shoot Buzz Bunny. Now that happens in a country where they say they're civilized. So how does that happen? And then they say, oh, well, maybe he thought he was, or maybe he suspected he was, or who he was, or he didn't know him. But he killed him. Now, maybe he thought he was going to attack him. All kinds of things said when if you kill somebody, that according to scripture language is murder. If you kill someone with no justification, it is premeditated murder. That's high-level criminal. Now, if you can't explain to someone why you killed someone in such a way as to show that killing them was going to save a tragic situation from unfurling that's going to cause threat and damage and even cause life to be lost, probably you wouldn't have to go to court. But when you kill somebody and there's left room for the common mind to say, why did he do that? Now you got to go to court to make the common person mind think that you are such a great analyst and such a great investigator that you went into this thing with every thought and you looked at and inspected everything and you seen that no, for that moment, that split moment, he thought he was in danger. Oh yeah, he had on a bulletproof vest. He had a pistol or whatever, a gun. He thought the other guy had a gun and that scared him. He pulled his gun out and blew the guy away.
His only provocation was
Now,
his imagination.
When you put that kind of thinking out into the open environment of the public world, and the people hear it and see it, they're human beings. Some are going to feel like I'm secure because they're representing, or they are, and so the history so indicates, they're representing protection for me. But the other guy over there is saying, history also record this represent threat to me. So now wait a minute. Ain't number of human beings involved here. But one human being feels that he's threatened and he is threatened, and the other person feels he's secure, but he's not. Because if you take and injure one human being's humanity, you're injuring yours more so. If you deny another human being unjustly, you're injuring yourself more so. So we talked about the consequences that befall us. So Ramadan means we get a chance to think about that. Man, you don't have to be no brilliant scholar going nowhere to think about what these things are and how they are flourishing in our society. Mm-hmm. So you think about how you can better yourself, grab a hold of yourself. And you're doing it for the sake of the one who created you in the first place. To show that you need help, want help, his help. And you want to be able to make an entry into the world after Ramadan that's evident to the fact that you have appealed to him, and he has thus given you reward of self-restraint, mannerism, behavior, attitude that's acceptable, that's warm and charming, and helps to bring back that genteel feeling that we talked about when a woman, there's a child and the woman is going through the toil of the birth. At the same time, they come together with a warm love and affection, particularly in the first beginning of the child. Mother nurses the child feels the warmth of his mother. Mm-hmm. He don't smell the milk in his mother's breath. He knows the warmth in his heart relating to his mother. People talk about, he smells the milk, he knows his mother. No, you don't smell no milk. You don't know milk from a can of paint.
Exactly.
But the warmth, the humanity that he has been born out of, he can detect in his mother. So now, I used to say to people, I say, you know what? People say, oh, it's my birthday tomorrow, man. Well, you ought to do something for your mom. Your birthday, do something for your mom. She shared or underwent the lines part, the big part, right, of you coming here more than you. She picked up the obligation and tried to care for you, nurtured you when you didn't even know you was here. And you was here for a while before you found out you was here. So now if you find out you're here and you come out being a brat, causing all kinds of problems and stuff like that, you was here for a while. You didn't even know you was here. Now you come out with a whole ugly attitude, nasty disposition. Of course it was influenced and it was injected in you by that influence you were in and the environment you were in and the way you were treated. I understand that. But when you come out like that, you still can't negate or remove from you what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in you that enables you to know that there's a distinct difference between right and wrong. So eventually you begin to know and understand that right and wrong is truly a feature in your very nature put there by the Lord of the worlds. And so within yourself, you have that argument going on. That duality function takes place in every one of us. Now, if we don't do nothing about it, we just say, oh man, I'm not paying attention to that. Then the thing that we call the less of ourselves will be free to be radical. So Ramadan gives us a chance to know that a little bit better. Gives us a chance to check it with a little bit more sincereness. Bring ourselves together, and in doing so, we should come out being a better human being, and we should be able to understand and see other human beings better and understand what our relationship should be.
And,
just a chance.
An individual should extend that same behavior
well,
to a larger part of the year. Let me put it that way.
Well, remember this. It starts with faith. You got to have faith in the Creator. That's the only way you're going to have courage. And so, in other words, you be the best you can. You do the best you can with what you got. Trusting that the one who creates and sustains all of us will make the adjustments appropriate that will make us have the success and the contentment and the peace. Mm-hmm. We're going to depend on that because he's ordered us to do the best that we can do. He'll protect us. We got to have faith to believe that. All the prophets did that. Prophet Muhammad, he did that. They didn't need it. When he came upon the first of them, they thought of him as being, or at least they said, it's reported, he was Al-Amin. They thought he was a great guy. He was honorable and all. They said all those things. And they said they liked him. But then when Allah gave him the Quran, which is a clear message, confirming and proving everything, that's what it does. Now he was clearly a nice guy, clearly an honorable one, clearly a truthful guy. Their estimation could have been short. Here, he's clearly, by Allah's will, an honorable man, and they hated him. Mm. They didn't like him in the first place, did they?
Obviously, they didn't. But what would propel you to change your mind about an individual that you gave certain characteristics to, honorable characteristics, but once he expounds something that is a little different than what you...
Well, it goes to this. Obviously, their ignorance was profound. Ignorance of themselves, the environment, their normal, what would be obligations, their natural self, they were ignorant about. So when they seen the evidence of that natural self at its best, it caused them to be awful.
Discomfort.
Which was the manifestation of what they were. The prophet brought a message that offered them change. But in order to say change is offered, you got to see a comparative, right?
Definitely.
Truth is never changed. It can't be penetrated, can't be removed, you can't do away with it. But the false lie and the wicked, savage behavior can be removed, destroyed, done away with, right? Well, Ramadan gives you an opportunity to see what you can do away with and what you can't. A better introduction you allow yourself to have to the truth.
Mm. Yeah, you're right.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. A lot of people will say, though,
I can't
do that. I can't do that.
I'm doing just as we just having this conversation. So we really ain't going through what we call, or what they would call this, an academic layout. We just talking like human beings who really actually just want to see some difference and pray that there will be some difference. That's all.
But like I said, there are many people that think they could never do that. Like, I can't.
Well, why would they think that?
I can't try.
If they're doing something, the duality is there. The option to do something different is always there.
Always.
The Lord of the world did not leave us or put us in a position where we're disabled, crippled, or burdened beyond our capacity. He didn't do that. If we got into those conditions, that's what we did.
We did.
So we disobey, and when one disobey, they reject. And when you reject, that means you disregard something that should be in place with you, but you say, I don't want that. Is that right? Well, something got to give when you do that. And it's going to give.
Well, I think some people actually consider themselves having shortcomings that they don't necessarily have. But when you mention restrictions, wow, it's like, nah, can't do that. Can't, nope. Y'all still do that? Y'all crazy.
Well, what about envisioning a world where you don't have criminal, savage behavior? Do we envision a world like that? If the governing agents, the academic leaders, the religious leaders was just envisioning what the Creator has put forth and gave them the capacity to envision as relates to right order, decency, truthfulness. If they would just envision that, it would have an effect on the world. Obviously, they are really protecting what is already a disorder proven. Because people fill up churches every week. People fill up mosques every week. People fill up colleges all the time. They walking on campus. They make it all so comfortable for you to be in college. They have so much going on making you feel comfortable in college that you wonder if anybody ever learns anything at all. You say, oh man, what are you talking about? We got PhDs. Yeah, we got PhDs. But we also got an increasing abundance of misbehavior and ignorance growing faster than PhDs.
Definitely. So
what is the PhD supposed to do? Be proven to be a phenomenal dunce? Because this is stuff keep raising.
Yeah, it does.
PhD gonna be known as a phenomenal dunce.
Wow. That's wow.
Well, man,
there's some people right now saying, "Wait a minute, I spent a lot of money on that PhD," and it really only makes them appear to be wise and worldly and clever.
Why don't we try this? Why don't we just say, what if we would take a chance and do what the Creator said so we can see what that will produce? They ain't saying that.
No.
They were looking for something else to do other than what he said. Now we can say, oh, you see, you going way over. Look at the lineage of prophets from Adam to Muhammad, and see whether or not the people at any instant truly said like Prophet Muhammad represents and said and did. I'm going to do exactly what Allah said. I'm not going to send nothing from me. I'm not going to put no format of mine. I'm not going to tell people to take an example or a sample from me. I'm going to tell them exactly what Allah said, and I'm going to allow what he said to have full control over me, so that by his grace I can become an example proven and certified by him. That's what he did. So now, why don't a society that's so sophisticated and wealthy and so strong and mighty and all this kind of stuff, why don't they, since they can't proclaim that there's peaceful coexistence between people, everybody understands the strain to try to find out what this one thinks, and all of them are just human beings in common, but they're all strained and torn apart. Can I trust that? Suspicious and ignorant about little simple things. Why don't they just say, what if we just do what the Lord of the world said? What if we just try it? Well, Ramadan brings to mind and offers the opportunity for you to get a view if you just try it. Try to do what he say to find out what the results are. We're so impatient. He tells you that a person be out in the middle of the sea, about to drown. He go automatically, because that duality works then, he gonna call on the Lord of the worlds. And the Lord of the worlds take him, put him on the land. He get on the land and start thinking he did it himself. So what are we talking about? We talking about human beings can be very foolish
Right.
because they come here knowing nothing. If they don't look at the instructions or take the prescription, or if the prescription is not given, they'll be existing here knowing nothing, getting worse.
So we should take this opportunity to get better. Ramadan presents an opportunity.
It's a merciful thing from the Lord of the worlds to give us an opportunity to say, can I review a little bit about myself? And I pray that He let me have the strength to overcome the fears that I have manufactured by my inordinacies that could deter me from being obedient even now. Promises that they will be given what we note and use, all repeated as a word, paradise. And those that disobey and is arrogant and terrible, as you may say, they're going to be given hellfire. Well, that's paradise and hellfire. Only way you're going to know the difference between them is you use the common senses and let that duality that's within your being have just opportunity to establish its full and complete identity as a tool that He's given. And rest assured, it can be that way if you follow the example. The example is already proven, secured, and modeled before us. That's Prophet Muhammad. Not just for Muslims, for the whole humanity of man. It was, oh, I thought it was just for Muslims. No, it's for the whole humanity. If the whole humanity do as is illustrated in the life of Prophet Muhammad, what would we be? Muslim.
Yeah.
Because Muslim means one to submit to the will of Allah. So that's what it'll be. So we don't have to get all messed up and be departmental like we do. I'm over here, he's dead. No. We're just human beings. And the best prescription for the human being to be successful is from Allah.
And to keep that savage in check.
To take that savage out.
Completely out. Okay.
Take that joke out.
Right now, I'd see that's a Herculean task right now with our condition right now. Would you prescribe us to a starting point? Give us a starting point as far as removing the savagery, even in the individual heart.
Well, the starting point is what we've been talking all along. The starting point is to believe that there's someone that's greater than you. Now, if you think it's the president of the country, then you just stop short.
Totally lost. Yeah, I understand that.
But if you think it's the Lord of the worlds that keeps the sun, moon, and stars and gives you an opportunity to breathe without you anticipating or initiating, who gives you a chance to have water to quench your thirst without you noting when that thirst appears and how and what degree you need to quench it, that keeps you, understand, operating the 9 systems in your body, understand, without knowing and understanding and have no access to any remote power from yourself, but it's still working. All those things prove, just as the sun, moon, and stars is in the sky, the sun, moon, and stars is the best visible, clear evidence of a what? A universal flag for one humanity. Now all these countries got flags. Mm-hmm. I wonder if they ever think about the flag that the Creator put there that is never, ever down.
That's a good point.
Or do they say, you didn't bow down to the flag, you understand? So you're a terrible person. Everybody should turn against him because he ain't do the allegiance.
Yeah,
well,
no,
if you didn't sing the Star Spangled Banner, that means you didn't sing the drunken song of the crown.
I'm sorry, say again?
If you didn't sing the Star Spangled Banner, that means you didn't sing the drunken song of the crown. Hail to the Queen.
That's the first I heard of that.
Well, look it up.
I have to.
Or maybe you may look up Francis Scott Key, who wrote it, and ask them what they were doing and what he wrote and why he wrote it. Ask Francis Scott Key that. And while you asking that, Asked him, do you know his brother-in-law? His brother-in-law was Roger B. Tawney. His sister was Ann Key, married to Roger B. Tawney.
Nah, a lot of. I
And
don't usually go into a lot of history.
Who was
yeah.
Roger B. Tawney? The Dred Scott case should come to your mind.
Oh, okay.
If
Yeah, I
that
remember.
case
Okay,
come to your
okay.
mind, then you know that he said, and this is a blatant thing, but it's the law. The Negro is not a citizen,
Not a citizen, right?
and there's no constitutional process that can make him one. He was the 7th Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. And he said that, he wrote that opinion. 2 dissenting judges on the court, but the rest consented. And it's stated, and you know it, in this American society, in this Constitution, there's a legislative process. By the way, the legislative process, supposedly laws are created. By the legislative process, laws are amended or changed. But through this legislative process, if it does not stipulate said change or elimination of a law, the law is still fully valid. So now, when you bring me the law that says it's stipulated in the process of what they claim is the antidote to the problem, show me where it says specifically that it's addressing that problem. Because if it doesn't say that, then it wasn't legislated to be a law addressing that problem.
You're referring to the amendment that what is it, the 14th Amendment?
Well, I'm not giving you any. I don't want to give you no difficulty. There's a lot to that, but I'm saying the 14th, 15th Amendment would be a good place to start.
Okay.
It's
just, a lot of us aren't. We tune out sometimes for the history buff. The history.
I'm wondering if we ever tune in.
That's a good stand to me. I'm just saying. A lot of times you see people start staring off into space. And all right, when someone's on, they're like, oh, okay. I wonder what I'm having for lunch today. They're not. Yeah. What would make someone more in tune with that, more able to make this applicable to them?
Ramadan gives us a chance to think about those things. Okay. And look at them with a much clearer mind, because we won't be cluttered up with lunch.
No lunch, no starch, no sleepy time. Yeah. And water is out again, and that's what people say. Oh man, I can't do that. You don't want, and it's hot out.
So what does that mean? The water and the lunch out. What do you replace it with? It should be the remembrance of Allah.
Thought.
Because he's the only one that can make a drop of water, and only one make your system work right.
Yeah, that's something to contemplate. That you didn't create any of this. The water that falls out of the sky, you didn't create it. You can't start it. And you can't stop it.
Well, it's better to say, to make a determination in the manner of this: all the waters on the earth never goes anywhere. Every drop that he created in the beginning is still here, right on his earth. Every drop is not minus any of them, and ain't no new water added. Period. The same water. And if you took everybody's on the earth, everybody's ever been on the earth, and all the ones that's going to be coming if he permits them to come to earth, if you could make them all one, they couldn't produce one drop of water. Now, why wouldn't we think about a God that's like that? If Ramadan gives us opportunity to think about him, we should think hard. Because just as that applies to water, it applies to air.
Everything. It applies to everything. You can't go out 3 minutes without air.
And see, man has to remember, as it's stated, has been stated all along, He has to regard time, but not the Creator. He don't have to time. He don't have to regard no time.
Right.
Out of His mercy, He said, "Take the sun, moon, and stars." And that means of us being able to tell time, but at the same time, time don't have to mean and doesn't mean anything to Him. We get fatigued and frustrated at the hour, not Him. See,
You're right.
That's what we don't understand. We keep on letting ourselves go on the congested things that have been put in our world that makes us think things that is really ridiculous.
And then overburdening ourselves.
And offend others.
Mm-hmm.
Because you realize one of these days we all will leave. It's a certainty, this world.
Certain.
The way we acting, and it's automatic to a degree, the way we conduct ourselves, we will post a sign when the certainty come, if we could. Do not disturb. Isn't that ridiculous? Okay? So we need to clean our act up and start thinking about what we're doing because we being reckless, hasty, and ignorant.
But there's also a lot of people don't want to actually think. They want to think that they're thinking. But I mean, the actual deep, penetrating thought that you're suggesting now is foreign to a lot of people.
Oh, they think about it. But they just don't want to treat it in the order that the thought so suggests. The thought, it comes through everybody's mind. I mean, there's no way that you can dismiss the Lord of the worlds out of your being. He calls you into being. How you going to dismiss it? Everything about us will bear witness in our behalf or against us.
This is true. But many will try. You see, through their savage behavior, they don't believe.
Many will rebel.
Rebel.
They ain't trying nothing.
Many will rebel. Yeah. But still, there's too many trying to rebel and too many not, again, using the common sense, or maybe it's not common, to understand. You didn't create anything. You're not the owner of anything. So why are you acting in this manner?
The common sense is our common. And the reason that people seemingly they disregard it, because they think that the common thing is not sufficient. If you run away from something that's real, run in another direction, you're going to be inclined to say that the real is not real and that you are knowing of that and that you are going to discover or come into possession of something that proves the real is not real. That's really ridiculous, isn't it? It can't happen. But man's behavior, being hasty and reckless and ignorant, he carries on like that.
All the time. Wow.
He think, oh man, look, I'm gonna change this and that. I'm gonna make this happen. If we do anything at all, we're gonna make a further blunder. And the ultimate thing that will save or take man to hell will be the power that rules this universe. And we can bet that everything we have done is really, clearly, safely recorded and ready to take and become active. We don't forgot what we did. But the record states we did it.
Sometimes convenient to forget. Or act like you forgot. Let me put it that way. Mm-hmm. Because not everybody figures, like you said, but some people act as though, oh, I didn't know that, man. I didn't know that was yours. I just took it because it was there. Yeah, well, and you knew you were stealing, but
we did take it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They did take it, but I didn't know that.
See, but the thing is that I didn't know it was yours. I took it. But one thing I did know, it wasn't mine.
There you go. All right, exactly. But they think the premise is enough. I didn't know. I wouldn't have, and you are supposed to infer, I would have never done that if I knew it was yours. And the thing is, you should have never done it.
That's real ridiculous.
It is.
Because I do know that they would know, and they do know, it wasn't theirs.
Again, how do we get people to actually begin to think on a level that will change
Well,
all of our condition? Let me put it that way.
The Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu was told, tell them what I said. You're not in charge of their affairs. Tell them you don't know what I'm going to do with you, let alone them. This is what he did. He told us that. And he is not charged with our affairs. He ain't charged with building no buildings for us, urging us to build buildings, or to proclaim anything other than La ilaha illallah. And he did it successfully.
The oneness of creation.
Allah told the Prophet Muhammad, he could relax, man. That's yourself on tour. I got it. They my creatures. I'll deal with them.
Yeah, be my creature to me.
And if you reading the Quran, which is something prescribed for us during the month of Ramadan, and reading it, if we read it carefully and read it thoroughly, or to the extent that we can say that we're utilizing ourselves well-intending, read it like that, Allah will help us understand where we're going astray at. He'll make us know. Then it's a question of whether or not we will do, by virtue of the fact that it's true and real, we'll do the thing that he asked. For the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu is also told in the Quran that to tell the people of the book that he believes in the books that was revealed to them. And in this world here, the people think that the books that was revealed, that they tampered with and played with, and changed this and that those are the books that the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu is being told by Allah to tell the people of the book that he believed in the book that was the books that was revealed to them. Well, the books that were revealed to them was the same as the Quran, the truth. But they tampered with it, so that means that the ones who were given the book the first time, tampered with it, now are being told in a very absolute way that you did that. How is he being told? If the prophet says he's told to say he believed in the books that revealed to them, when they flex through their mind, they can't remember what those books is. Because they tampered with the books and played through. Look, they don't even know what book that is, do they? See, that's why you can't play with Allah, because you're putting yourself in the jam all the time.
And he also established a connection between the books all the way through.
Well, the books are clarified and cleared up and brought to their prominence and restored with the Quran. So, you know, the people who received the books by Musa and the ones by Isa alayhi salam, they mishandled it. So what happens? They played their part. So it ain't them that you got to be wondering about what they doing. They recorded quite well. They what they did. But who is behind in their work? It could be them. They concluded they worked with their rejection, didn't they? They brought an end to their work, what they would be able to furnish to the humanity and restoration and stuff. It left them when they disobeyed, didn't it? So who's behind their work? The Muslim. We got to take and make people, not make people, we got to take and convey to people that message and evidence of our own behavior and attitude, speech, and all the other things that come along with communications. Our actions, our deeds, all the things are being credited in that particular way. And we got to have patience, and we got to have tolerance. We got to be true in our belief. Our faith got to be working very clearly by the actions that we commit and put forth. We're supposed to be showing evidence that we want to enrich. We want to purify our faith before Allah.
Okay. That makes great sense.
So there we are.
Yeah.
Ramadan is coming.
Once again, it's coming.
We got a chance.
It does not stop. And we are hopefully preparing ourselves to do what we need to do. But at the end of what? At the end of the 30 days?
At the end of 30
We'll see.
days, we should see some results.
Yes. And then extend. Well, I guess this should be a little metamorphosis that takes place every little Ramadan with the individual. If he's had inordinacies and he's corrected them, should not resort back to them. He should.
Well, let's say it this way: we should have a greater active consciousness of our responsibility.
Okay, sounds good.
And we'll see whether we're going uphill or downhill.